So now that we're done with circles, we're going to move on to parabolas, and this is parabolas day one. Now, in day one, we're just going to review what you guys did at the beginning of the year in Math 2, and that was just graph parabolas. And there's two ways to kind of go about doing it. Number one is if you're given the equation in standard form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. If you're given it in this form, to find the vertex, right, what you're going to do is you're going to find the x coordinate by doing the opposite of b over 2a, and then you're actually going to plug that in. You're going to basically do f of the opposite of b over 2a to find your y coordinate. Okay, now if your parabola is in vertex form, which is, which is f of x equals a times x minus h all squared plus k, right? You know right away your vertex is going to be at the opposite of h, or h comma k. And with this, with both of this, you need to know a. And what a does is you're going to find your steps by using the 1a, 3a, and 5a. So let's look at a couple of examples here, right? So here, y equals x squared. To be honest, here I'm just using a table. I'm going to create a table of values to do it instead of doing anything else. I'm going to know 0, 0 will be the vertex. But then I'm going to plug in, say, -1, -2, then +1, +2. When I do that, what is -1 squared? That's 1. -2 squared is 4. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. And then I'm just going to go ahead and plot these. 2, 4. And I could even go a couple other points. But once I kind of have an idea, right, this is what I would get. And this is more of a U-shaped. All right. Now, if you look, this whole 1a, 3a, 5a thing, if a is 1, 1a is 1, 3a is 3. So what happens is, if I look at from the vertex, if I go over 1, now my step is going to be up 1. The next one is going to be over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I could do it again and be over 1, up 5, and that would give me my parabola. Okay? And I could do it over here to duplicate it like such. So example 2 now. To find the vertex, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the x value by doing the opposite of b over 2a. So if b is 6, the opposite of 6 is -6 over 2 times 2, which gives me -6 over 4, which is -1.5. Now I have to plug y in, or x in, to find y. So y equals 2 times -1.5 squared plus 6 times -1.5 minus 1. And when you evaluate this, you would get -5.5. So my vertex is at -1.5, comma, -5.5. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of guesstimate where that would be. -1.5 and -5.5, which will be right about here. Now from there, I'm going to use the 1a, 3a, 5a. So 1 times a. If I look here, a is 2, b is 6, c is -1, right? So if 1 times a, well, what's 1 times 2 going to give me? It's going to give me 2. 3a is going to be 3 times 2, which is 6. Now, what this does is from here, I'm going to move over 1. Now, if I'm at -1.5 and I move over 1, it's going to put me at 0.5. and I'm going to go up 2 from there. Now the next one, I'm going to go over 1 to positive 1.5. Now I'm going to go up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now all I do is duplicate this on the other side of the vertex. And that would give me the shape of my graph. Okay? Now the next one, right away here, right? What is my vertex at? So the vertex, I'm going to basically take the opposite of negative 2, which is 2. Then it's negative 3. So I'm going to plot 2, negative 3. Now, A right now is 1. So 1A is 1, 3A is 3, 5A is 5. So my steps, it's always over and then up or down. So in this case, since A is positive, we're going to go over 1, up 1. Next step is going to be over 1, up 1, 2, 3. And the next step would be over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because parabolas are symmetrical, I duplicate it on the other side. And I am good to go. Okay, now the next one, right away, my vertex is going to be at negative 1, 4. Now, A is negative 1/2. So when we do 1A, that's going to be negative 1/2. 3A is going to be negative 3/2, which is basically negative 1.5. And then 5A would be negative 5/2 or negative 2.5. So right away when I go to graph this, I plot the vertex at negative 1, negative 4. Now what you have to understand here is since A is negative, I know this parabola is going to open down. So I know this parabola is going to open down. So now my steps are going to be from the vertex, I'm going to go over 1, but I'm going to go down 1/2 because that's 1A. And I'm going to go over 1, down 1.5. So what I do is I go down the half first and then a full 1. Then I'm going to go over 1, down 1, 2.5. Duplicate this on the other side. And then I can sketch my parabola. Okay? Now, the next example, what you're going to do is, if I look, I could go ahead and multiply, FOIL this out, and I could get x squared, right, plus 2x minus 4x minus 8, right? I could get that, and then that ends up being the same as x squared minus 2x minus 8, and I could go ahead and graph that. But to me, the easiest way to find the vertex here is if I look at my zeros, what are my x-intercepts going to be here? If I let y equal 0, x equals 4 would be a 0, and x equals negative 2 would be a 0. So what I'm going to do is find the average of those. So the x-coordinate of the vertex would be 4 plus negative 2 divided by 2, which in this case would be at 1. So the x-coordinate of my vertex is going to be at 1. Now I have to plug that in to find the y value. So 1 minus 4 times 1 plus 2 is going to give me negative 3 times 3, which is negative 9. So my vertex is at 1, negative 9. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that vertex. If you notice, my A is 1. So 1A is 1, 3A is 3, 5a is 5. So I'm going to go over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, 2, 3. Then I can go over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Duplicate it on the other side. And I have my graph. The key here is to know how to find the vertex. Okay? The last example here, same thing. I'm going to go ahead and find the vertex. The x-coordinate of the vertex is going to be the opposite of b over 2a. So negative 10, if this a is 1, b is 10, right? C is 24. So it's negative 10 over 2 times 1, which is going to give me negative 5. So my y value now would be negative 5 squared plus 10 times negative 5 plus 24. And when you go ahead and evaluate this, you get negative 1. Because that's going to be 25 minus 50 is negative 25. And negative 25 plus 24 is negative 1. So my vertex here is at negative 5, negative 1. I'm going to go ahead, plot that. And now I have my steps, the 1a, 3a, 5a. So if a is 1, 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 1 is 3, 5 times 1 is 5. I know a is positive, so it's going to go up. So I go over 1, up 1. Now my next step from this point is over 1, up 3. Then over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Duplicate this on the other side. And I have my graph. Okay. So go ahead, attempt the homework, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me.